Bear down, Chicago Bears. We got a great show today. Seth Rollins, Seth freaking Rollins from the WWE, a man who had an incredible event last night, throwing around a lot of curse words, getting into a fight with The Rock, who is now a bad guy, a heel, if you will, as they try to finish the story for Cody Rhodes. Took the time, Seth Rollins took the time to talk about the Chicago Bears, his favorite team. Now, Seth Rollins not from Chicago, he's from Iowa, I believe, but he was a lifelong Chicago Bears fan. And he was super excited about what he thought, and we're gonna break some of that down today. We've also, by the way, I put out a video yesterday, 2 days ago. I put out a video on Marvin Harrison Jr., saying that I think Marvin Harrison Jr. represented the only generational talent in the draft. Now, it would be unfair to me or for me to say that many people are saying that Caleb Williams also is. So yesterday I made another video. I'm going to go through the draft, by the way, and I'm making videos on people that are probably draftable. By the way, I did a draft myself today, and we'll be talking about what I chose and who I chose in my draft. And it should be mentioned that during the course of that, people did not like the fact that I was being nice to Caleb Williams. And in fact, it was one of the lowest engagement videos that I had in a long time. People are not passionate about Caleb Williams coming to Chicago. So I just wanted to say that, we're going to use generational talent. We're going to throw that around every once in a while. We're going to throw it on a thumbnail. Those are engagement things. So just want you to know that when it comes down to it, my opinion of what the Chicago Bears should do, in that I would have any say in what the Chicago Bears would do. If I did, it would be very, very simple, and it would be that we need to stick with Justin Fields. That would be my opinion, but it is just an opinion. So uh, we'll uh, we'll settle that pretty soon. We'll settle it pretty soon. But in the meantime, if you haven't already, go check out Caleb Williams to see what I had to say about him. And look, I mean, he could be our quarterback. I don't know that he will. I think that the Bears are fine with Justin Fields. I think that the opportunity presents itself that the Bears are a playoff contender and, dare I say, a Super Bowl contender with Justin Fields at the helm. But I'm not Ryan Poles. I can't make that decision. All I can do is report to you, number one, what I think, and number two, what they actually say. So, that being the case, let's move on here and let's get into it and kick this off with the news of the day. And that is Seth Rollins. Seth freaking Rollins settles Justin Fields, Caleb Williams debate for Bears fans as he outlines his 2024 draft plans. And he was asked what he would do, and his response was, trade it, man. If you can trade back in that top five, because I love Justin Fields. I've been thinking about it hard all season, with all the ups and downs, all the rumors, all the talk, and my gut tells me stick with the guy. My gut tells me to stay with him. He's a player. He's got the skill set. If we can stay in the top five, I say trade that pick. But if you feel like you're going to miss out on, say, a Marvin Harrison, that maybe you just draft him at number one, go ham. New England's number three. I think Washington is number two. They both are quarterback needy teams. If you can pit them against each other, something that I've been telling you guys for a while now, one of them might want that number one spot if they both want Caleb Williams. Somebody's going to want to move up and get that spot. So I think if you could move down to a 2 or 3, get the farm and get Marvin Harrison, we're in a great place. That sounds like a logical that's a logical suggestion, guys. Let me know what you think. Do you think that the Bears will be better off sticking with Justin Fields? Let me know in the comment section. Do you think that they're better off with Justin Fields, or do you think that you move on to Caleb Williams? Do you trade down Marvin Harrison? I mean, guys, I do think Marvin Harrison is the generational talent in this draft, and it doesn't make sense to me that we would not take at least a shot, every reasonable accommodation and shot at making sure that we get Marvin Harrison Jr. no matter what you want to do. However, there is one person who is taking issue with that, who is saying, not so fast, baby. And that guy, by the way, is Rome Odunze, who sent a bold message to the Chicago Bears ahead of the NFL draft. Now, he sat down with NBC Sports Chicago at the Super Bowl radio show and glowed about the possibility of the Bears drafting him in the first round. He's become one of the most popular first round options linked to the Bears during the pre-draft process and could be a logical fit for their second pick at number 9 overall. By the way, in my mock draft that I did, mine was all in on 2 wide receivers. You guys have been following for a length of time. You know, my idea here was to start off with that, we would number 1 go with Marvin Harrison Jr., that was the man, that was the generational talent. But then at number 9, what I was looking for was a Malik Neighbors, but I would settle in my mind for Rome Odunze. Now, I've done a lot of watching Rome Odunze. When I say settling, that is the worst possible word you could use for settling for a guy who really has the skill set that Rome Odunze has. And I thought, what a great option to pair those guys with DJ Moore and create this trio of elite receivers, in my opinion, that could perhaps really change the dynamic of the Chicago Bears. He says, I've seen great things. I was a big fan of Devin Hester growing up. That was my favorite player, so I love it. Chicago is an amazing city, and I feel like in recent years they haven't had the success that they wanted, and I feel like I could revive that, provide another asset to that offense to help propel them to another height. They've got a great quarterback in Justin Fields. I think he's a baller. I think he's got some weapons, but I think they could add me, and I could be another asset for the team. So statistically, he caught 92 passes for 1,640 yards and 13 touchdowns for Washington this year. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. And just take a second to consider that the Chicago Bears could have DJ Moore, then they could have 6'4", 205 pound Marvin Harrison Jr. and 6'3", 215-pound Rome Odunze as their wide receivers. He excels as a route runner and frequently wins contested catches. By the way, he's one of these guys that you really want to have on your team, because what he did, no less than he worked all offseason on contested catches, because just like somebody like just somebody like Michael Jordan back in the day, didn't have a jump shot, worked on his jump shot, wasn't great at free throws, worked on free throws, did everything he could to make himself better in the things that he wasn't very good at. Rome Odunze did the same thing. That's a really good, that's the kind of guy that you want to see. Okay. That would be awesome. He's a dog. I remember watching, he just doesn't go down. We're talking about DJ Moore, his balance to maintain it through catches and stay on his feet and get those extra yards. It's one of the highlights of his game. He's smaller, but he has the speed and physicality to be a big receiver. He's exciting to watch. And when talking about Caleb Williams, he says he's a special player. He can deliver it inside the pocket. I even saw it firsthand. His ability to get outside the pocket and make people miss and make plays. His awareness to be able to look downfield and be able to make some of the throws he makes. Man, it's incredible to watch. He's a special player. I would be excited to play with him. So Rome Odunze thinking that, perhaps not my idea of Marvin Harrison and Rome Odunze at the same time, but perhaps Caleb Williams comes first overall to the Bears, and then Rome Odunze comes in at number 9. So he's looking at both of these options, and he's looking that he would like to be a Chicago Bear. So we'll see what happens. We don't know how exactly Ryan Poles is going to fit this in, but we're certainly looking forward to it. Also, TJ Edwards has made a statement letting you know exactly how he feels about Flus, about Matt Eberflus. And he says he's got some pretty good statements here. Among a couple of topics discussed, Edwards was asked about his former Eagles coach, Nick Sirianni, before ultimately speaking about Matt Eberflus. He says, I have all the love and respect for Sirianni. He's a passionate dude, wore his heart on his sleeve. He was in it with you. The linebacker went on to compare Sirianni and Eberflus and spoke equally as bright of his now head coach. He said, Flus, I get that same type of energy, that same type of passion every day. You can tell he loves the game. He lives, breathes, and sleeps football for sure. He also said earlier in the interview how the defense responded after the Chiefs loss toward the beginning of the season. Following that loss and the changes Eberflus made with calling the defense, they were a totally different squad. He's been consistent, steady, handling the storms of Chicago media. We were better for it. And he's not wrong. The Chicago media can be brutal. Many members of the media and a good chunk of the fan base wanted Flus to be fired following the season, but the way he turned that defense around deserves some respect. maybe, just maybe, Ryan Poles wasn't wrong to keep him around for another year. If we're being honest, the big responsibility now is in the hands of Poles and his decision at quarterback. Eberflus has the trust and respect of the locker room. Now it's on Poles to make a decision on Justin Fields, and let's call it like it is, Caleb Williams. So TJ Edwards, big fan of Matt Eberflus, big fan of the way he turned it around, big fan of what happened after the Kansas City game, which was a big deal. So, and, to be fair, we saw a big turnaround in what the Bears were doing at that point. Like, we really started to see not just an absolute change, but we saw the crescendo. We started to see this real move in a different direction for the Chicago Bears. And let's go look at Chicago Bears. So you can see exactly what I'm talking about right here on ESPN. You can look at their schedule for the year, and you can kind of see that, not really crushing, if you will, struggling a little bit on the season. You get to that Chiefs game, you give up 41 points, and then you come back to the Broncos and give up 31. Now that's not where I say, like, it didn't immediately happen. But maybe something changed right there, and we could have won against the Broncos. We should be pointing that out. Could have won against the Broncos. But then we come back the next week and hold the Commanders to 20. Then we hold the Vikings to 19. Now, the fact that we only put up 13 points, that was, I believe, the spot where Justin Fields this was Tyson's time. So put up 13 points there, but we only gave up 19 points. And we came back with the Raiders, only gave up 12 points before losing to the Chargers, giving up 30 to a pretty good team in the Chargers, or at least they were playing some pretty good ball. Justin Herbert, a tough nut to figure out. And then the Saints 24, but now you're really starting to see a team sort of develop. The one outlier to me, the one outlier was that Lions game. And that was where, I think people were really concerned. I think people were really nervous with what we were still waiting for that collapse. And, the offense was still trying to find its way. But then we saw just a real lockdown, 10 points. 13 points, only 20 points to the Browns. Now, it was a sludge game, one of those things where you really want to win that game because you're so close. You got that opportunity, and you don't close it out, right? And then you have the Cardinals 16 points, the Falcons 17 points, and even the Green Bay Packers 17 points in a losing effort, but still you're only giving up 17 points. Like, you really get on a streak of good play from the defense, and you can kind of see it manifest itself. Now, I would venture to say that it was more likely the Broncos lost that fourth in a row when you lost to the worst team in the league, that the Bears, probably the defense was like, dude, we got to get our shit together. Like, we're giving up 38 points. We're giving up 41 points. We're giving up 31 points to the Broncos. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that's really the time where it's changed. And the play calling started to get different, and I think the team got better. But that's just my opinion. Now, in other news, Kurt Warner is out here now delivering his powerful case for the Bears to move on from Justin Fields. And to be fair, we've talked about this before, and he's not telling you anything that we haven't already heard from Kurt Warner. There's nothing different that he's really saying here. He's just re-stressing and using anecdotal evidence of his position. And here's the thing. The thing is, I don't know I know his opinion, but I don't think he understands our opinion, if you will. And he says this: they are weighing a tough decision. What I'll say is, when you get to the point we're at with the quarterbacks in this league and what you have to pay them and what that means for your organization, you better know he's the guy. That, to me, really is where teams get in trouble. Like, the Giants go give Daniel Jones $40 million. He hasn't shown us he's that guy. We can hope he's that guy. We've seen glimpses maybe, but he hasn't shown us he's that guy. So the Giants are behind the 8 ball because he's still not that guy. Maybe he will be in 3 years, but he's not right now, so they pay him. I don't think the thing with Justin for me is he hasn't shown me he's that guy. Doesn't mean he's not talented, doesn't mean he can't be great and a franchise quarterback. But when you have 3 years and you don't take out the doubt to go, he's our guy, I think you have to move on. You can't just go pay that guy $50 million in hopes that those glimpses you saw turn into greatness. It may be unfortunate because some of these guys play too early. They're not yet ready to play. Their next step on their next contract is going to be determined by it. but that's all we can go on. If you have played for 3 years, you have to prove to me you're the guy. To Warner, it's not just about Fields hasn't what he has or hasn't shown. It's the unique and somewhat unfair situation he finds himself in with the Bears owning the number one pick. We have to put in the elements of we've got the number one pick. It's not like they got the number 23 pick and they're going to go, oh, let's just go get another quarterback. You got the pick of the litter if you believe that Caleb Williams might be that guy. I think that's the unfortunate thing for Justin. But again, he's had 3 years, not perfect situations. There's a lot of elements involved, but I just haven't seen the consistency of his play to go, I think he can get there. Being unsure to me leads to you get the number one pick and move forward. Um, and I mean, that's a fair statement. Perhaps, Fields has continued to improve despite landing in a terrible situation for a young quarterback. He's shown growth as a passer and is arguably second to none as a playmaker with his legs, but he's continued to struggle with consistency as a passer and at the bottom of the league in almost every notable fourth quarter passing category. Warner's opinion should carry some weight. He has done a thorough evaluation of Fields through his work with the NFL Network and has a big picture view. Now, let me also say that he has the contrary in view to Chase Daniel, who thinks that Justin Fields is the quarterback for the Chicago Bears, or Seth Freakin Rollins, which we just went over, which not an NFL analyst, but you get my point. Kurt Warner, just because he's a good player doesn't mean he's a great analyst. However, he is. I don't want to say just because he's doing that makes him one. Jordan Palmer, however, all in on Justin Fields. Many different players who are out here are all in on Justin Fields. And look, as an analyst, you're really giving somebody your opinion. When I give you something, I'm giving you my opinion. I'm not telling you what Justin Fields does or doesn't do. I am pointing out there are flaws in the work, and it's going to get better over time. Will it get better for the Chicago Bears is really the question. That's what we're asking, because you've got Pittsburgh out here looking for a quarterback. You've got going down in the draft, I mean. You've got Denver out here looking for a quarterback because Russell Wilson is not working out. You've got plenty of different teams. You've even got Tampa Bay out here who may not sign Baker Mayfield, might be looking for another option. So you might have a guy that other teams want, and if you decide that you don't want Justin Fields for whatever reason, then there are other teams out here that probably will make him a franchise quarterback. So I would think that Ryan Poles is probably weighing a lot of this right now. And, my opinion is I understand what Kurt Warner is saying. I understand 100% what he means when he says that. Make sure, by the way, that you're hitting the like button on the way in. If you haven't already, helps push me up in the algorithm. When we do that, more people come in. We have a more robust conversation about what's going on. A bunch of people come in here and start to argue with you because they don't like Justin Fields or they love Justin, whatever the case may be. But let's invite them in and let's start talking mad smack to them. But Kurt Warner, I value his opinion. I think that it's important that you have these people out here that are having that. But I just fundamentally disagree that Justin Fields hasn't shown that he can be. I do think that the consistency obviously is there. I'm not blind to the 53.4 fourth quarter rating, but I think we did advanced stats yesterday. And in those advanced stats, I showed you a lot of different statistics that tell you that, and fourth quarter, by the way, is a pressure moment. But in other pressure moments, Justin Fields has been just fine. So there has to be an outlier, and there has to be something that's causing Justin Fields to have that problem in the fourth quarter. Could it be, in my estimation, that the play calling that was going on in the fourth quarter, or because of certain situations, was causing that? And then when you go back and you look at it, it really comes down to like 2 games. When it came to Justin Fields in the fourth quarter, it really came down to how he played in, I want to say, 3 games. One of them was the Detroit game. And if you remember, we were not playing to win. We were playing not to lose. That's a horrible way to play a game. And it led to, and by the way, Justin Fields should make those throws. Justin Fields should recognize a front side rusher coming to him. Justin Fields should not get sacked on his first play with an opportunity to go take the lead back in the game and cause a safety. I'm not unaware of some of these moments here, but they get exacerbated and they get made worse when these situations occur, if you will. when you have that opportunity, you don't capitalize on that opportunity. And sometimes it just comes down to, as a quarterback, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have problems, but you have to overcome, right? 10 fumbles in 13 games. That's a lot. That is a lot. We look at Caleb Williams. He had 8 fumbles in, I want to say 12 games. And that's kind of the same problem. That's kind of the same problem. So maybe that fumble thing is not as big a deal as long as we're getting the ball back. But it's not unfamiliar territory. So anyway, I disagree with Kurt Warner in that Justin Field does not represent that future and the go-to guy. But we'll see what happens. Now, here's some interesting things right now. We're going to talk about the Raiders free agency because Luke Getsy is now the OC over there. And look, it's crazy to me that Luke Getsy is a valued guy, but it is my understanding that the Raiders looked at what Luke Getsy did to them last year, winning 30-12, and thought, we'd like to have this guy if he becomes available. So they did go out and they did hire him. And now these are the 3 free agents that the Raiders appear to be looking for. Lucas Patrick, you can have him. That's our backup center guy, or that's our main center guy at this point. But maybe it's time. We definitely do not want Lucas Patrick back. We definitely have made it clear that we're moving on. As a matter of fact, in my draft, I was lucky enough to get the position that I want. Guys, when you see my draft, you're going to be like, please, you're the greatest person that's ever lived when it comes to drafting stuff in this NFL league that we call. You're going to like it. At least I think you're going to like it. If you don't like it, it's on you, Bo. But Lucas Patrick, interior offensive lineman, we're moving on from that. Jalen Johnson is now what they're saying. He may be a defensive player, but Jalen Johnson is someone to keep an eye on. And I just randomly, let's pick the best player, you know what I mean? And say that he's a free agent. Ryan Pohl's not letting Jalen Johnson get away. He's going to pay him. Okay. And then number 3, Deonta Foreman. And by the way, you can have him because I've already solved that in the draft. Just in case you guys wanted to know, I solved the whole Deonta Foreman thing in my draft. So when we get to that in just a few minutes, you guys will see, and you're going to think, oh, Bleeves, you did the greatest job of drafting in the history of anybody who's ever drafted anything in history. You're probably going to hate it. You're probably going to be like, I don't like this guy. You suck, in the 7th round or something wild like that. But I made a few trades, by the way, to get there. So anyway, but let's move on from that. Now, the other thing is the Bears are predicted to cut ties with a starter, and that's Yannick Ngakoue. Now, Yannick Ngakoue really came in with a $10 million contract opportunity, a 1-year contract to really perform and do a great job. And it just didn't work out. It just did not work out. Yannick Ngakoue was signed to a 1-year deal to bolster the league's worst pass rush, but he didn't have a significant impact. With Montez Sweat coming off a Pro Bowl campaign, Chicago will look to pair him with a younger, cheaper option. Now, he got $10 million. He had at least 8 sacks in all of his 7 professional campaigns before arriving in Chicago. He battled some injuries, playing in just 13 games. However, even when he was on the field, Ngakoue wasn't the same type of performer he'd been throughout his career to that point. He finished the season with a career low 4 sacks and only 7 quarterback hits, which was also his lowest tally. So maybe we picked him up at the wrong time. And, if the guy takes a discount, I mean, it's possible that Ryan Poles might want to run it back one time. But, I mean, the product that we saw on the field did not match up to the hype with Yannick Ngakoue. So most probably he's gone, and we're going to move on. But it should be noted that looks like we're going to free up that spot. Now, on to the mock drafts, guys. I want you to look at this. This is my mock draft, okay? So if you haven't already, you can just go download and you can look and try to figure it out. I went to profootball.com or something like that. Did a mock draft, and my first one, you'll notice, I think the blue ones right there means that I made a trade. So you'll notice that I made a few trades, right? I couldn't believe, by the way, what I got on one of these. Marvin Harrison Jr., however, was my first pick. I did make a trade with the New England Patriots, which picked me up a 2nd round pick at the 34 spot, I think it was. And then I took Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 3. After that, I got to the 9 position. Now, when I got to the 9 position, Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors. My first options were there, but I wanted to give I wanted to give Justin Fields some options, and I needed to give him some receivers who could get open, and Brock Bowers represented the best opportunity for that. And I did address a receiver later on in the draft because I know that Equinemius St. Brown is not coming back. Darnell Mooney, maybe one of those two guys we're going to bring back most probably, but I needed to fill that other position. So I did bring in somebody else. But at number 34, which I didn't have a pick late in the draft, and you can only have 3 in the first round. So I moved up early in the second round to the 34. And guess who was there? Jackson Powers Johnson, which was the center that the Bears have been looking to grab. So I went after Jackson Power Center. So my first 3 picks, Marvin Harrison Jr., which I think, again, I've shored up the wide receivers. Now I've given him another option to throw to in Brock Bowers. I do have some problems here. This is not, this is not a completed and a finished draft by any means, because I haven't picked up a defensive end. So my thinking here is, at this point, Chase Young is going to be out there. Maybe I'll pair him up with Montez Sweat. Maybe I'll take one more run at Yannick Ngakoue. Again, even though he's gone, maybe I'll make one more run. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to shore up that defensive end line in free agency at this point. Then I'm going to move on to the number 68 pick, and I'm going to take a cornerback. Now, optimally, I wouldn't want a cornerback. However, I felt like we needed to have another back out there. So we took Kalen King from Penn State, athletic kind of guy that can also play some safety, which makes for a possible or potential move with Eddie Jackson. Then had Will Shipley at running back for Clemson. Will Shipley is my replacement for Deonta Foreman. Got him at pick number 81. He's a bruising kind of runner. I wasn't really happy with the other people that are available. Then I moved down. Then I made. I think I moved down into this from like the 75th pick down to 81 at that point, just to see what was available. And then at 110, I took Braden Fisk, which is a defensive tackle out of Florida State. Florida State, really good defense this year. So opportunity presented itself to pick up a defensive tackle. So that gives me a little bit of depth, just provided that Justin Jones is gone. And then I'm dealing with Andrew Billings, Gervon Dexter, and Zach Pickens. Then I need a little bit more depth. Hopefully Zach Pickens picks up that 3 part of the rotation, and Braden Fisk, we can work into that lineup. And then at 121, I went with Ricky Pearsall. That's the guy who's going to, that's my depth guy right there. And then I picked up one more center. Now look, the center position is a little bit interchangeable. If you're really good at center, of course, you want to be a center, but the other thing is we've had some problems, and we need a good backup center who can also potentially play guard and provide spot relief to Tevin Jenkins and Nate Davis. So I went with Bo Lemire out of Arkansas. I thought the SEC and the fact that, there's a certain toughness that the SEC brings to football in the trenches that you might want to admire at least. And I got him in a back-to-back selection with a trade down, which is where I picked up Ricky Pearsall. So let me know what you think in the comment section about this draft. My idea here really was just to make sure that I got Marvin Harrison Jr. And then when I started to think about it, again, I think in my mind was maybe to skip on the defense. I thought the defense was coming along, and then I could pick it up in free agency, and I went with a whole lot of offense. As you can see, the 3, the 9, and the 34 pick, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Bowers, and Jackson Powers Johnson were my guys. And I think this is a good one. I think this is a good one. And we'll see how this all plays out. And by the way, when you're looking for somebody just mentioned Lord Crimson, it would be nice to have someone that can return kicks and punts. Ricky Pearsall from Florida. I think he actually performed that function for Florida in a number of games. So that was the other guy, and that's your backup, and maybe Tyler Scott, maybe. And look, Velus Jones Jr. is still out there, and I want to say when it comes to Velus Jones Jr., just if you would allow me on this, everything he touched turned to trash for a long period of time. Every time he got the ball, there was a problem. There was a fumble. There was, he did not look good. But I do want to say that after we got over that initial, by the way, it's a young kid. After we got over those initial mistakes, I think that he quietly started to become a little bit better. So I'm not done with Velus Jones Jr., despite that I saw the product on the field and I know I know that there's the potential there that he could just be a disaster, but he didn't make a whole lot of mistakes um, towards the end of the season. This is all really kind of happened at the very, very beginning, the very beginning of the season, and that's it. I understand that. I saw that, but also I know that he was coming in spot relief at the wide receiver position, and I mean, really, if we come back here and look, if we come back and just kind of look at what he ended up, and I don't mean to, I'm certainly not wanting to laugh. He had 4 receptions out of 7 targets, so he was just kind of a spot person at that point. He had 3 fumbles. And here's the thing: when you come back and you look at, he was just kind of spelling, right? He was just kind of a spot relief sort of guy. Um, and then you see right here, he still had one at least. But look, I'm not defending him. I'm just saying that he's still um, he's still a young guy, and maybe something will happen. By the way, I don't really give a shit. I'm not defending him at this point. I saw the product on the field. I know how bad it was. But moving on from that, we do have another mock draft. We have a couple of them that are coming along. Ryan Poles makes franchise-altering decision in latest mock draft. This is NBC Chicago. Of course, every day we got a new mock draft from NBC Chicago. Number one, they have a trade for Washington Commanders, of course, taking Caleb Williams. That seems to be what most people are looking at right now. Is that going to be the case? I don't know. I don't know if that stays the case. Some people are going to like Caleb Williams, some people are not. But it's possible that once again the Bears ignores the expert and exasperated fans, and he trades down. And now we're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. at the number 2 selection. And then at number 3, we've got Drake May going with New England. And then the important thing is, what do we get at number 9? And then at the number 9 position, you've got the Denver Broncos trading up to get Bo Nix. This is the wild ass thing here. Moving down here, now you've got Chicago Bears now at the 12 via Denver getting edge rusher Latu. And so, I don't have a problem with that. That's a decent move. So I just kind of think this is I think this is the I don't know that this is the move, but you know what? You do you, boo boo. You got a couple of picks, and here's the thing. This is why I had a big problem with this. By the way, when I was looking at this, I'm like, Jesus Christ, we got to talk about that. We got Jared Verse down here at 15, and we've got Malik Neighbors down here at 18. What is what in the absolute Neighbors is arguably the most skilled route runner in this draft class, and that's saying a lot considering the dynamics available. Um, Viewed by many evaluators to be borderline top 10. Look, this is the only person saying this about Malik Neighbors. If you look at almost any draft, Malik Neighbors is a top 5, top 7 pick. It's absolutely crazy for something like that. But that's how I got that Jackson Powers Johnson from this guy's draft where he was saying that stuff anyway. Now on NFL.com, we've got Cynthia Freeland, and she says that in her draft, she's got pick number 1 from the Chicago Bears, that they're going to take Joe Alt. In case you didn't know, number 2, Caleb Williams would go to the Washington Commanders, and at number 3, Drake May, and at number 4, Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, if you want to take your phone or whatever you're watching at right now and throw it out the window for this crazy woman, go for it, because this is wild. Joe Alt at number 1. And then look, here we got Malik Neighbors coming in at number 9. And I state one more time, I don't understand what these people are not understanding about Malik Neighbors and how we get to this position. Not here to defend Malik Neighbors. I'm just saying that it's crazy that sometimes we see these wilds, and I think maybe it's just a byproduct of, look, we've been doing this for every day. We got to come up with a new draft every single day. We got to come up with a new policy and a new way to kind of improve this team during the draft. So let's go for this. And then let's say that everybody on this list is an idiot, starting with the Chicago Bears taking Joe Alt at number 1, and then allowing, again, grant me that Caleb Williams might be a special player, maybe. Drake May might be a special player, maybe. Marvin Harrison Jr. is definitely a special player for sure. And we're taking Joe Alt. Like, this is just wild. And then who comes after that? Terrion Arnold. And then at number 6, you've got Rome Odunze, makes sense. Olufashanu at number 7, makes sense. Jaden Daniels, probably a little bit low, but makes sense. And then Malik Neighbors. It's just absolutely wild to me. And then Fuaga, like this lady, I think this lady is just like, you know what? Maybe if I just pick I don't know. Anyway, and there was another one, Lance Zierlein. Also, he was out here doing his pick for NFL.com, and he went with Chicago taking Caleb Williams at number 1. The Commanders taking Jaden Daniels at number 2. New England taking, look, guys, I am not kidding you. Okay, these are happening right here. People with brains are doing this, right? Caleb Williams at number 1. Fair enough. Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels at number 2. I mean, that's fair enough still. Like, I mean, if you don't like Drake May, that's okay. If you don't think that he's the second best quarterback, that's okay. I mean, it's your opinion, right? At the third position, the New England Patriots, desperate for a quarterback, take Marvin Harrison Jr. So they're going to have a generational wide receiver with nobody to throw the ball to him, which that's wild. But okay. Arizona Cardinals, desperate for Marvin Harrison Jr., definitely would take Marvin Harrison Jr. Are going to take Rome Odunze, which is I would accept that. I would say that's that's another good move. Over Malik Neighbors, I'm not sure. Again, Malik Neighbors still my favorite receiver, not named Marvin Harrison Jr. in this draft. But Rome Odunze, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it's 6'3", 215 pounds. I mean, that's pretty big. That's a good guy, right? And Kyler Murray needs somebody. So then you have the Atlanta Falcons taking Drake May at number 5. They got real lucky at this point in this draft. Then you got Talise Fuaga, offensive tackle from New Orleans. So now this guy is better than Joe Alt, which had never been established before. But now, okay, let's just do that. And at number 8, we got Terrion Arnold. And then number 9, Malik Neighbors again. So, guys, I would be so happy with Malik Neighbors no matter what, just so you guys understand. Like, and I don't care who the quarterback is. So we'll see. Then we got the Jets taking JC Latham. Like, this person is really offensive tackle heavy. Important position, obviously, but Jared Verse coming in at number 11. JJ McCarthy at number 12. Byron Murphy, Luatu Latu. Going down the list here. No third pick for the Chicago Bears trading up or anything like that. By the way, Jackson Powers Johnson, I do want to say I saw him come up on this one. Yeah, he came up at number 27, so he'd be out of there. They didn't see my draft, I guess. Anyway, so and then you have this one right here, where the Bears trade the number 1. This is wild here. The Bears trade the number 1 pick and Justin Fields in the latest draft. Okay, so this one works out to. This one works out to a wild one. If Chicago were to go through a similar trade, you would think in CBS that would do latest mock draft, which is right here. And what he says is that the Atlanta Falcons would make the trade here. That the Falcons would get Justin Fields and the 2025 pick. That's going to be the trade. But then the Commanders would also get the number 1 pick, and then they would be basically moving down. So then the draft would look like this. Washington would take Caleb Williams. Jaden Daniels would go to the Chicago Bears. And then Marvin Harrison would go to the New England Patriots, who suddenly don't need a quarterback. I don't understand this. And Rome Odunze is going to go wide receiver to, again, make sense that this is going to be the move. Byron Murphy. The Giants are going to reach for Drake May. Probably not available at 6, but okay. Number 7, you got Talise Fuaga. Then you got Latu coming in at number 8. And then you got the Bears taking Malik Neighbors again at number 9. You know, all of a sudden in the last couple days, everything has switched from Malik Neighbors being a top 5 pick to maybe in the top 10. So, again, I mean, I think we're just kind of, and by the way, Mr. Nasty, nasty offensive tackle here is now at the number 10 pick. And he's gone from number 1 all the way down to number 10 in the course of a couple. And JJ McCarthy, the stock is rising for this gentleman. He continues to come up and just get outside of the top 10 on his draft picks. But moving on from there, we have Clay Harbor. They have this one saying that Caleb Williams and Malik Neighbor. I like Odunze, but Neighbor is my wide receiver too. And I didn't have anything to add to this other than to point out that Clay Harbor is a very smart man if he is saying that Neighbors is my wide receiver number 2. And the reason I'm saying that is because it matches what I said. So there we have it. And then we have another one, a random mock draft that just kind of popped up here. And it had Caleb Williams going number 1 overall, and it had Rome Odunze coming in at number 9, had Malik Neighbors going at number 6, Brock Bowers coming early at number 5, Marvin Harrison going down to Arizona. Marvin Harrison going to Arizona, a lot of people had on their radar, but you had Caleb, Drake, and Jaden going as number 1, 2, and 3. Then you had Joe Alt at number 7, probably a better position. Dallas Turner from Alabama at number 8, and then you've got Fuaga, Jared Verse, Bo Nix. A lot of different movement going around here. That's 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 what it looks like. So yeah, a little bit crazy. So that's the way the quote unquote cookie crumbles, or whatever you call it. But again, I think the most important part is my draft was like probably the best draft that you've seen so far today. Hashtag not bragging, but also basically just kind of bragging. And let's put that back up on the radar one more time here so that you can see that draft, that beautiful, brilliant draft. So in my draft, number 3, we're moving down and we're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. because we want that. We want that generational talent. We want the real generational talent, in my opinion, in this draft. That is Marvin Harrison Jr. You can disagree with that, by the way. But then at number 9, I went with Brock Bowers. Now, why did I go with Brock Bowers? Because Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze were both taken early in my mock draft. So number 34, I traded up to get the 34 pick, and with that, Jackson Powers Johnson was sitting there on my radar, so I took that opportunity. And then we had Kalen King, cornerback from Penn State. Again, that was the best athlete available at the 68 pick. And I thought, even if he's a cornerback, maybe he can transition over to safety. He's a pretty big guy. So opportunity to transfer him over to a safety in case Eddie Jackson is gone and we don't have enough depth there. So this provides some depth, needed depth, by the way, in case Terrell Smith, who's also able to play safety, gets an opportunity. And then we have Will Shipley coming in. That's basically my replacement for Deontay Foreman, assuming that he's going to be gone. And, now we've got somebody coming in. And then we've got Braden Fisk, defensive tackle from Florida State, Ricky Pearsall to shore up the depth, maybe replace Equinemius St. Brown or Darnell Mooney on the roster as a serviceable backup that can work his way into the lineup. And then we have Bo Limmer as the backup center coming out of Arkansas. And yes, that is that is the and by the way, for that's where I thought that either Tyler Scott or Darnell Mooney comes into play. And, maybe not Tyler Scott, but it is possible that you bring back Darnell Mooney for $7 or $8 million a year. I mean, he's, again, a lot of the problems that I see with the Chicago Bears come down to the coaches not utilizing the talent that they have in a proper fashion. They did not give, and first of all, let me just also state for the record, if you're not allowed to audible out, if you are a Justin Fields and you're not allowed to audible out and pick your own plays, so to speak, you're running the play that somebody else is giving you. And look, fair enough if that's what you're doing, but it has to be a really good play and it has to be able to get people involved that should be involved. Darnell Mooney should have been involved in the offense a lot more than he was. And if that's the case, then you got to ask yourself the question, like, did we miss something with the offensive coordinator on Darnell Mooney last year? And could we bring him back and be better because of that? So I would venture to say that that's probably what you're going to get. You're going to get a better quality of player that I think that he represents a really good slot receiver. And I mean, this guy is a burner that can, give him a little bit of time down the field. Maybe you could say a little more pass protection for Justin Fields probably improves everybody, by the way. We should probably at least acknowledge that. But working on him getting rid of the ball faster instead of trying to run, Luke Getsy's offense, I just think, it just, um, who cares if the wide receiver is big? If they produce and are good, it won't matter. Well, you can't just do that because you can't just have a bunch of 5'8" guys running around because when you have 6-foot cornerbacks, they are going to interrupt the flow of the game. They are going to interrupt the throw of the ball. And sometimes you have to throw the ball over some pretty big offensive linemen. So you have to have the ball up there and your touch you might physically not even be able to touch it into some of these lanes that you have to throw. So you need to have at least a little bit of size. You don't have to have a great amount of size, but you do have to have a little bit. But some of these guys just are too small. And everybody can't be real small. You got to have big guys because again, at the end of this, there are physical matchups. And look, if you have a cornerback, if you have a guy who's 5'8", you have to drop the ball into him. And the cornerback who's 6 foot could be able to reach up there and just knock the ball down. What you want is a guy who could really go up there and get the ball. So that's why you want somebody like a Marvin Harrison Jr. at 6'4" or a Rome Odunze at 6'3". That's why you want one of those bigger guys who can go up and do and specialize in contested catches. That's their specialty for both of them, by the way. So that represents a good opportunity. And by the way, so does Brock Bowers. So in the event that this genius draft here plays out, then you would have also Brock Bowers who would be able to go up and get balls. And Cole Kmet does too, by the way. So, it should be noted that it is important to have. And it just makes everything a little bit more difficult. And, just size is that's not the underlying issue. The issue is you want to have a full receiver, but if you have a great receiver and you have a great set of receivers and they're all short, then you're creating an unnecessary obstacle. Okay. Equinemius St. Brown, it doesn't matter if he's 6'9" if he can't get open, right? You still have to get open, and we still have to go under the underlying premise that there are certain pieces that fall into place before height. But when you get to the height portion, and everybody's short and they're playing against taller people in the league, then those taller people are going to win the up top game more. They're going to cover, look here. One of the things is if you're an Aaron Rodgers type that just makes those really good throws, or Patrick Mahomes that makes those really good type throws, you need that receiver to be able to stretch out like this without their hand being contested to kind of get the ball. And that is true. It does work in Madden, so it might be practical. By the way, I have a full video of the Chicago Bears playing like John Madden. And if you go back and look at any one of my early like shorts on YouTube, I was always using that because I thought that stuff was hilarious and it was really fun to like watch. But yeah, instead of Bowers, I would take Olu, Fashanu, or Joe Alt. I mean, so here's the thing: Joe Alt was not available, and to be fair, like one of them, I don't know if one of them was. As a matter of fact, I can't even say one of them was or was not available. I was thinking about wide receivers, and when I got here, I was looking at the best player available to make the quarterback because I think the quarterback situation needs receivers more than it needs. Um, Not that either one of these guys is not good, but they need to be able to catch the ball, and I think that was one of the bigger obstacles, and to get open, and route running, and these are two great route runners, and I think that Braxton Jones will get better. Tevin Jenks, look, most of these guys are still young. You have to consider, at least I consider, that these guys are still young. We can make this better with a good center, right? And there's Connor, there's Aaron Brewer, there's Jackson Powers Johnson, which I got in the draft, by the way. But Braxton Jones, I think, is going to be a little bit better. He's still a young player. Same thing with Tevin Jenkins. Same thing with Darnell Wright. Nate Davis. Nate Davis did a serviceable job. Like, it's not like we're not. And here's the other part: the guys who don't mind picking up the blocks. I Cole Kmet is that guy. Mercedes Lewis would be that guy. Like, we do have a team here that has people who are willing to block. And Mercedes Lewis, by the way, free agent, but I think that we're picking him up for one more year. $1 million contract, probably not going to be that much to have that kind of depth at tight end. But you have, and maybe you didn't need him, by the way, with Brock Bowers. But so you know what I mean? Like the dynamic changes. It changes completely when you have some more people to throw to, because look, if you have 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds to make the throw, you're supposed to be doing it that quickly anyway. So if you can actually make the throw on the drop back and you have a serviceable, even if you don't have the best offensive line, look, there are plenty of other people that are making that play because they're making those quicker reads. So there's pieces here that I think that Justin Fields was too slow making decisions. I think that they will focus on making sure that he's faster at making his reads and his decisions, that he's just going to go for it, by the way. I do think that is an important part of what the Bears are doing, especially Kerry Joseph and Shane Waldron. I think that that's going to be a big factor, is his quickness in making his decisions and his reads faster, to give the offensive line an opportunity to provide the proper protection. Then you are already in a better place. Again, like it's it's just one of those things where I think Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Nate Davis, Darnell Wright, and whoever's at center are going to be an upgrade just by virtue of being young, getting better over time, and filling up that center position with somebody who's than um, um, better than. Yes, they did. And much of that was Lucas Patrick and Larry Borum. I mean, look, we're watching the product on the field. I don't know why we're not using the same math. When we watch Larry Borum, one of the worst people in the offensive line at the offensive tackle position, just playing Olay with people like he's a matador instead of an offensive tackle. When we're watching Larry Borum getting bull rushed constantly, yeah, it makes me think that the offensive line was objectively not very good. But if you break it down by the time that Larry Borum was in there versus the time when Braxton Jones was in there, then you saw a much different offense. And I go back to Braxton Jones was injured until game 9 of the season. And I don't want to make this look like, but it's really simple. Like, you really can just go over here and look. You don't have to just be like, I don't like him. Because all of these W's came towards the end of the season when Larry Borum was no longer there, no longer allowing people to go through. The dynamic of the team changes. So it's it, it's not like it's not like we didn't improve. And I would imagine, just a guess here, but I would imagine if you took the offensive line at the beginning of this year and matched it up to the offensive line at the end of this year, you probably saw the 32nd ranked offensive line become the 24th ranked offensive line, because by the end of the year, they were in the top 15. And they just kind of, and by the way, even with that, I love, by the way, I loved the fire and I love the passion of Dan Feeney. I love the fact that as a replacement for Lucas Patrick, this guy, even though he just really was like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm doing at first, he worked and he worked and he worked and he worked and he got better and he got better and he got better. But it was still a point of weakness. So, that's going to be shored up. And if that gets shored up, then how much better does this team become when you don't have that question mark there? When you have a little more depth, when you don't have Cody Whitehair as one of your backups, when Lucas Patrick is gone, can't even get the ball. Like, between Cody Whitehair and Lucas Patrick, for whatever reason, they couldn't even get the ball to Justin Fields sometimes. Like, it was insane how poorly they were executing. But if we have somebody executing better at that position, how much better does it make the entire line? And I would venture to say that an improving offensive line, with another person in there at the very weakest of positions makes this a much better offensive line. And we don't have to complain about it. We just have to watch it play out. So that's my thing right here. So we'll see what happens with this. But I fixed it. Jackson Powers Johnson is right there. The hole that existed in this offensive line has been shored up. Now, I can't fix Larry Borum. Larry Borum's broken, and I can't do anything about that. You know, I can't actually, I can't fix that. Um, but I can tell you that Braxton Jones represents a significant upgrade. Now, if you say that Marvin Harrison versus Brock, but you would rather have an offensive tackle, I mean, fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, here's what's going on. The Bears aren't winning Super Bowls anyway. So we're going to have people that take us to the Super Bowl. So if you think that that's a better option, go make a draft. Send it to me. We'll even talk about it on the air and we'll break it down as best we may on what they are. And by the way, my email is in the description down below. So we can certainly talk about what you think is going to be a draft. Or if you want to, then, just send it over to me and let's pop it up on the screen and, let's see. So uh, there's a uh, there's a whole lot of things that we can do. But by the way, this is it. We're running up on 1 hour, so it's going to be time to go for the day. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Appreciate you so much. When this goes off, go let me know in the comment section on the video to keep it trending for the day. And go check out that Caleb Williams video. I can't believe y'all didn't watch that. Even though, by the way, nicest video ever. Look at this little frame that I got around me, moving around. Everything looks pretty and swag and all that stuff. But, I think that, look, the Bears are, I'm telling you now, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it every time. The Chicago Bears are a Super Bowl contender for next year. The Chicago Bears are a playoff team for next year. It's a matter of how far they can go. It's a matter of how if we go with Justin Fields, how well do they manage Justin Fields? If it's Caleb Williams, how well do they manage Caleb Williams? How much can we improve the players around? So if these guys are capable and adept, then we've got a Super Bowl contender. We've got a playoff team at least. And it's going to be down to, you know, I mean, the coaches are going to have to fix the fourth quarter. That's the part. That's the most important thing for me, and I hope for you guys. I mean, I hope we're at least on the same page here. I think Justin Fields is the best option. I think that Justin Fields can take this team where we want the team to go. I think that he's the guy for it. But I'm not the GM. I don't make those decisions. So it doesn't matter what I think. All I can do is react to it. And I can tell you this: that Caleb Williams video, if they draft him, it's going to get a lot more views later on. But I thought it was the best. I thought it was a really good video anyway overall. But you guys, let me know what you think. If you think it sucks, it's okay. And here's the thing: somebody was arguing with me about it over you can't use generational talent every day. Yeah, I can. It's my goddamn show. I can do that all the time. And by the way, it is not my belief that it is my belief that Marvin Harrison Jr. is the generational talent in the draft, not Caleb Williams. But I mean, people say that Caleb Williams is an exceptional guy. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad of Caleb Williams. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad of everybody. I don't think that he's generational. I think that Drake May represents at least as viable an option. I don't think that Jaden Daniels does, although I've seen Jaden Daniels was just phenomenal this season. Um, I don't know that he represents a better option. Certainly not than Justin Fields, in my opinion, and certainly not above, in my opinion, Drake May or Caleb Williams. But other people are seeing it, so I mean, maybe it does. But that's a discussion for another time. For now, though, we're going to be talking about today's video. By the way, you better turn on your bells to be notified because we're going to be talking about the man Rome Odunze today because I think that he's the next guy up that we're going to be talking about as a potential Chicago Bear at that number 9 pick. So until then, you guys bear down, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.